Hi everybody, welcome to the Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina. This is where we read books, talk about books, nothing special here, no fancy theme music, nothing. This is very, very low tech. And I've got this fantasy. I know it's a little a little far-fetched, but I've got this fantasy of having a Christmas miracle, of having 1,000 subscribers by Christmas. So I'm leaving it up to you, the general public, to help me out with that. It'd be most appreciative. Those of you who've already subscribed, I appreciate you too. Please spread the word. I could use some more likes. So, anyways, without this strap. It's a good way to start. So, because it's the Christmas season, and like I said, I like to read books. I like to read series books. I'm a series person. Just like a soap opera, the series progresses. You have character progression. Just like Star Trek Fridays, we do an episode each week, and the story is resolutioned, but we still have character progression from episode to episode. So, and we have the same cast each book, same cast each episode, like a soap opera. Don't forget Flashback Mondays. We're doing that too. Books I was reading and series I was reading back in 2008 with my Romantic Times magazine that was my Bible back then. So I've been talking about this series for a while, but I haven't gotten around to it. But where is... Ah, shoot. So I wanted to do this series now. It's the holiday season, and the holiday season is a difficult one for me personally. My mom and my daughter died during this particular season, not this year, but years past. And I also lost another family member recently, and I also lost my comfort care cat. So I always decide to read my comfort books during this season. So we're going to go through 30 Days of Janet. So we're going to go 30 days with Janet, and we're going to end on Christmas, or maybe a little bit after Christmas, because I've already purchased it, but I've wrapped it up to be my Christmas present, Dirty 30. So we're going to go through all 30 books, and we're going to end with Dirty 30, and then we're going to finish the J.D. Robs, because the next J.D. Rob comes out end of January this year. Usually you have to wait till February, but I believe the site said end of January, a little early this year, which is cool. I miss the olden days when we would get 4 J.D. Robs a year in addition to the 3 Noras, but she doesn't do the short novellas anymore. So we just get the 2 hardcovers, February and September, and then the Noras. So anyway, let me get back to this. We are doing my gal pal here, Janet Evanovich. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but I've always do these. I have this version. I have this version, and this version, and this version. And I always tell people that if you're going through a difficult time, if someone has passed away, and you need a reason or an excuse to smile, you need a reason to laugh, you need something, I always recommend that you check out Janet. One for the money, and I realized I didn't have this one, and I will get it. Believe me, I will get it. Um, two for the dough, and I also have uh, two for the dough because you got to hear it is Lorelei, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Lorelei. Read these, Lori Petty. Read these. I thought it was Lorelei somebody. You you can't appreciate how funny these are unless you listen to these being read out loud. So, and she reads them straight without cracking up, which is just absolutely amazing. So like I said, if you're going through a time, then these are a good, easy, quick read to get, just to give you a little laugh. So, as you may or may not know, the first book, One for the Money, was made into a movie, which was absolutely horrible, because they chose the wrong cast. I think by this time Estelle Getty had passed, but she was always Grandma Mazur in my mind. Always and forever, when I read the books, I picture Estelle Getty. Um, Also, get yourself prepared for food. Uh, to this day, I cannot drive by a Dunkin' Donuts or a Krispy Kreme and not think Stephanie Plum. And I cannot pick up a Stephanie Plum book without thinking Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts or Cluck in a Bucket. There's just no ands, ifs, or buts about it. I associate the books with the donuts with the chicken. So we have Stephanie Plum, who is currently starts the series out of work. She used to work for E. E. Martin as a lingerie buyer, and now she is unemployed and she's having dinner with her parents. And her father mentions her cousin Vinny is hiring as a file clerk. So she promises her mom and dad that she will go to see Vinny to get the job as a file clerk. So when she goes to see Vinny the next day, her cousin Vinny, uh, they have already Connie, his manager, tells him they've already hired a file clerk, and it doesn't pay very well, and she wouldn't like the job. But Connie suggests to Stephanie that she consider becoming an apprehension agent. It pays much better than the fire clerk job, and their current apprehension agent had his appendix burst and he is in the hospital. So he is unavailable. So Stephanie blackmails Vinny into allowing her to work for him. And he has a very high 100,000 bond on Joe Morelli. And Stephanie would get 10% of that, which was $10,000. And the fact that she hasn't worked in 6 months, her phone has been turned off, her credit is in the toilet, and her car has been repossessed. She needs the money. So she finds Morelli quite easily, and apparently they have had, and the book will start off with this, and you can read that at your leisure. She's had a relationship on and off with Morelli since early childhood, going in the garage and playing choo-choo. So you'll read the book for that explanation. So when she gets back to the office after her experience with Morelli, she says to Connie that she needs some help. So Connie introduces her to Ranger. And Ranger, who right now in the first couple books he speaks quite a bit. In later books, it's babe, and that's it. Just babe, and that's it. So his real name is Ricardo Carlos Manoso, and he's Cuban and he's special forces. And this was one of the characters that was definitely not correctly cast for the movie. It should have been a big guy like The Rock or a similar guy, big like The Rock, and they chose this little guy, and it just didn't work out. And Morelli was the wrong guy too. So she meets Ranger, and he suggests to her that she needs a pair of handcuffs and she needs a gun. So he gets her a gun, and later on, she gets the handcuffs and pepper spray and other items that she needs. And if you are a follower of my podcast videos, you will know that that clock goes off every single time I do a video, regardless of what time of day it is. The stupid thing goes off. And I'm telling you now, it doesn't tell time. It hasn't told time in 20 years. It just goes off. We've tried to replace some of the mechanisms. It doesn't work. It goes off when it wants to. So Ranger hooks up with the stuff. So after talking to Ranger, he wants her to buy a gun and a handcuff. So she buys a new shoulder bag and handcuffs and a new gun. Or he gives her the gun. Actually, she doesn't purchase it. Then she talks to her friend Eddie Gazzara, who will be a repeat character in the books. And she wants to arrange to learn how to shoot said gun. So I should bring a few other characters into this. Her cousin Vinny, and then his wife is Lucille, and she has mob connections. And then there's her mother and her father, and Grandma Mazur, and Lula. Lula will be a prominent major character in future books. We also have Mooch Morelli is a cousin of Joe's, Morelli's mother, and then his grandmother, Morelli. She's going to be a stick in the mud in future books. So while Stephanie is pursuing a Morelli, she runs into Benito Ramirez, who is a famous boxer in the area, and apparently he's bonkers too. And when she goes to visit him and things go bad and shooting happens, it's Morelli that saves her butt. So she goes to her mother's for dinner, and apparently her mother has scheduled a gentleman to come over to join them for dinner. And Stephanie has known him since like kindergarten. She does not like him. Like he's a friend, but he is not someone whom she would seek a romantic entanglement with. But her mother is anxious to see her married. So they go to dinner, and if you can get the audiobooks and hear this done correctly, I would recommend it. But I can't let this go without revealing these 2 pages to you. My day hadn't exactly been a success, and announcing to the world that I was a fugitive apprehension agent seemed presumptuous. I sort of work for an insurance company, I told him. You mean like a claims adjuster? More like collections. She's a bounty hunter, Grandma Missouri announced. She tracks down dirty, rotten fugitives just like on television. She's got a gun and everything." She reached behind her to the sideboard where I'd left my shoulder bag. "She's got a pocket full of paraphernalia," Grandma Mizura said, setting my bag on her lap. She pulled out cuffs, the beeper, and a travel pack of tampons and set them on the table. "And here's her gun," she said proudly. "Isn't it a beauty?" I have to admit it was a pretty cool gun. It had a stainless steel frame and a carved wood strips. It was a Smith & Wesson 5-shot revolver model 60A38 Special. "Easy to use, easy to carry," Ranger had said, "and it had been more reasonable than semi-automatic, if you can call $400 reasonable." "My God," my mother shouted, "put it away. Someone take the gun from her before she kills herself." The cylinder was open and clearly empty of rounds. I didn't know much about guns, but I knew this one couldn't go bang without bullets. "It's empty," I said. "There are no bullets in it." Grandma Mizura had both hands wrapped around the gun with her finger on the trigger. She squinched an eye closed and sighted on the china closet. "Kapow," she said. "Kapow, kapow, kapow." My father was busy with the sausage dressing, studiously ignoring all of us. "I don't like guns at the table," my mother said. "And the dinner's getting cold. I'll have to reheat the gravy." "This gun won't do you no good if you don't have bullets in it," Grandma Mizura said to me. "How you gonna catch those killers without bullets in your gun?" Bernie had been sitting open-mouthed through all of this. "Killers? She's after Joe Morelli," Grandma Mizura told him. "He's a bona fide killer and had a bail dodger. He plugged Ziggy Kaluski right in the head." "I knew Ziggy Kaluski," Bernie said. "I sold him a big screen TV about a year ago. We don't sell many big screens, too expensive." "He buy anything else from you?" I asked. "Anything recent?" "Nope, but I've seen him sometimes across the street at Sal's butcher shop. Ziggy seemed okay, just a regular sort of person, you know." No one had been paying attention to Grandma Mizura. She was still playing with the gun, aiming and sighting, getting used to the heft of it. I realized there was a box of ammo besides the tampons. A scary thought skidded into my mind. "Grandma, you didn't load the gun, did you?" "Well, of course I loaded the gun," she said. "I left the one hole empty like I saw on television. That way you can't shoot nothing by mistake." She cocked the gun to demonstrate the safety of her action. There was a loud bang, a flash erupted from the gun barrel, and the chicken carcass jumped on its plate. "Holy Mother of God!" my mother shrieked, leaping to her feet, knocking her chair over. "Dang," Grandma said. I guess I left the wrong hole empty." She leaned forward to examine her handiwork. "Not bad for my first time with a gun. I shot that sucker right in the gumby." My father had white knuckle grip on his fork, and his face was cranberry red. I scurried around the table and carefully took the gun from Grandma Mizura. I took out the bullets and shoveled all my stuff back into my shoulder bag. "Look at the broken plate," my mother said. "It was part of a set. How will I ever replace it?" She moved the plate. All stared in silence at the neat round hole and the bullet embedded in the mahogany table. Grandma Mizura was the first to speak. "That shooting gave me an appetite," she said. "Somebody pass me the potatoes." I'm telling you, it's a good read. So, um, she goes after Ramirez, and the shooting happens, and Morelli saves her. Then she goes to her mother's for the dinner, and a mother set her up with Bernie Coots, who decides this chick isn't for me. Then Ramirez goes to see Stephanie near an apartment and scares the life out of her. It's a good thing she's got the deadbolt on her door. And then she goes to her landlord and says, "Can I get a second one?" Then Stephanie goes and buys some pepper spray and goes on the hunt for Carmen, the other witness to Morelli's shooting. Then she talks to Mrs. Santiago and John Cusack, who were also there at the shooting. Cusack tells her the other witness, Edelman, was run over by a car last week, so that kind of frightens Stephanie a little. Then she recruits Ranger to help her break and enter into Morelli's apartment to do a search. Afterwards, just as she's leaving the apartment, she sees the keys hanging on the hook next to the door. So she takes the set of keys, and her car, her original car, had been repossessed, like I had stated earlier. So she went and bargained for a really, really cheap car. And her cheap car had a really bad oil leak. And while she was in the negative neighborhood, they spray painted profanity on her car. So when she leaves Morelli's apartment and sees her car with the profanity and the oil leaking, she takes Morelli's Cherokee. So she's driving around in Morelli's car, and she goes back to Vinny to ask for an advance on the money that she will get from Morelli's bond, because she's out of food, she's out of everything. So they give her another skip trace, Clarence Simpson, and she actually gets him. She's one of the few successful bonds that she gets, skip traces she gets. And she takes him to the police station, and on the way to the police station, Morelli sees her driving his car. So then she sets a trap for Morelli. And while she is waiting for Morelli outside in her parking lot in the rain, because she's taken the distributor cap off the vehicle, waiting for Morelli to show up to retake his vehicle so she can capture him. And the whole time she's out there, well over 6 hours, then she ends up in the rain. And when she finally calls it quits, Morelli's been sitting in her apartment all this time waiting for her to come home. And after they have some few words, he handcuffs her to the shower rod. So she has to call Ranger to rescue her. And after all that incident happens, you'll have to read the book. She goes back on the streets and goes looking for Morelli again, because she knows Morelli is looking for Ramirez. So she figures if she's around in the neighborhood, in Ramirez's neighborhood, that oh Lord, remind me not to wear this shirt again. That she will spot Morelli. During her search, she comes across two ladies of the evening, Lula and Jackie, and like I said, Lula will become a prominent cast member in later books. So later, after she talks to Lula and Jackie about Morelli and says, well, he got me pregnant, that's why I'm looking for him. She's accosted and taken to Jimmy Alpha, who says he's Ramirez's manager, and that if Ramirez contacts her again, to let him know. Later, Ramirez calls her parents' house, and her father is thrilled that a famous boxer has contacted them. Unfortunately, he doesn't know that the boxer is bonkers and is evil. She catches up with Morelli and says that she catches up with Morelli, and he says to her, complains to her that she has been speaking to his mother, and she has telling people that she's with his child, and that she's driving around with his vehicle. So in a distraction method, he kisses her passionately, grabs the keys out of her pocket, throws them in a dumpster, and escapes her. So then she spends the next hour or so in the dumpster retrieving the keys. And while she is in said dumpster, she spots the recycling half of the dumpster newspapers, and it is revealed that John Coots, the guy that she had talked to the previous day, was killed in a drive-by shooting. So now she's getting a little nervous. So then she goes after Lonnie Dodd, another FTA, and things don't go very well with that one. So she calls Ranger to assist her with this, because when she went to get Lonnie, he grabbed her purse and locked his door and left her outside without her purse. So she calls Ranger to assist her in getting Lonnie. they get Lonnie, but in the process, Ranger is shot in the leg. So then Ramirez calls and leaves a threatening message on her phone. So she later encounters Lulu during her search again for Morelli back at Ramirez's neighborhood. Later that night, Ramirez calls her and says that he saw her talking to Lulu and Jackie. Later, Eddie Gazzara takes Stephanie to the shooting range and she repays him by purchasing a pizza. Stephanie wakes up the next day and she's feeling a little better about everything until she spots Lula tied to her fire escape, severely injured, beaten. So she takes Lulu. She calls the police and has Lulu taken to the hospital, and then she goes and retrieves Jackie and takes Jackie with her to the hospital and to make sure that Jackie is safe. Later that night, Morelli comes to her apartment and makes her a nice steak dinner and reveals the in and outs of the case and why he needs her help in locating Carmen Sanchez and another witness to the shooting that can help prove his innocence. So, to find out what happens at the end of the book, if they find the witness, what happens to Lulu will probably be in this book, Two for the Dough. And we will do, like I said, we will do all 30 books. So to find out what happens after Joe wires Stephanie up and tells her to go to Star Trek and get some information from Ramirez, and they'll be watching and stuff like that, set up a sting. So you have to see if that's successful and what happens with Lulu and how things go and if Stephanie gets the money for turning Joe in. And like I said, we will be doing 30 books in the next 30 days, and we will be ending with Dirty 30. But please check on probably every other day or probably every other day. You will see another Janet Evanovich book. So let's get to know Stephanie Plum together. And I hope you have a nice evening. And please hit the like and subscribe to let me know I've done a good job. Thank you.